All right, welcome everyone to today's Explainer. If you're a business student or a marketing pro, you are in for a treat today. We're going to dive into a full chronological case study on exactly how corporate fast food advertising completely transformed. We're talking about a massive shift from aggressive demographic segmentation back in the day all the way to the global lifestyle branding we see right now. I'm literally so excited to take you through this journey, exploring the specific strategies, controversies, and major demographic shifts that have defined an entire industry.
So here is our agenda for today. First up, early tactics and demographics. Then we'll hit the aggressive burger wars, followed by legal battles and slogans. After that, we'll look at some cross-cultural branding failures, then strategic global partnership proposals, and finally, modern celebrity lifestyle branding.
This timeline right here is basically the backbone for our entire lecture today. It perfectly maps out how some really severe societal shifts practically forced these major corporations to adapt their competitive tactics over the decades. The playbook is constantly being rewritten, right? Moving from strictly targeted demographics in the 70s, straight into direct warfare in the 80s, and finally landing on the collaborative lifestyle branding we see today.
Let's jump straight into Section 1, Early Tactics and Demographics.
Now, this perfectly illustrates the stark contrast between those early stereotypical targeting efforts and today's much more holistic approach to lifestyle integration. Back in the 1970s, McDonald's started to really aggressively diversify their audience. And at the time, they viewed this as a massive step forward in overcoming racial issues in their marketing. But as we're going to see, the execution was highly segmented and honestly, heavily reliant on what we would now consider some pretty fraud cultural stereotypes.
So advertising executive Tom Burrell actually coined this term positive realism for authentically placing products within specific communities. But while modern analysis view the heavy reliance on culturally specific linguistic traits like G-dropping with words like making it or dinner timing as textbook tokenism, they even introduced a Get Down dance campaign that lifted a popular move right from African American culture. It was basically an era where ad agencies, which were overwhelmingly white-dominated back then, were perceived as, frankly, racially naive, leaning super heavily into demographics just to carve out market share.
Moving right along to Section 2, the aggressive burger wars. Now, what's really fascinating here is the sheer scale of the advertising dominance we're evaluating. Just look at the massive financial footprint of McDonald's compared to its rivals. The whole term burger wars was actually coined in the late 70s when Burger King tried to grab some mindshare by directly attacking the size of McDonald's hamburgers. But when you evaluate the actual data, McDonald's absolutely dwarfed the competition when it came to ad spend.
And here's the really crucial point. This whole era of constant, super expensive comparative advertising and price slashing, it actually resulted in massive financial casualties for literally almost everyone except McDonald's. By 1987, all that constant spending just began to break the major players. I mean, Burger King was forced to lay off over 100 people from its Miami headquarters. Wendy's suffered its very first quarterly loss since it was founded in 1969. Smaller chains like Hardee's basically had to keep their heads down and retreat to regional markets just to survive the crossfire. And all the while, McDonald's market share just kept growing.
Okay, let's get into Section 3, legal battles and slogans.
So, this case study perfectly demonstrates the legal risks of highly offensive comparative advertising. You had rival chain operator CK basically forced to defend its menu against some really crude targeted attacks. Back in 2007, Jack in the Box aired these disparaging ads equating competitors' Angus beef with, well, anus. CK, which is the parent company of Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, claimed these ads deliberately confused consumers between a cut of meat, sirloin, and a breed of cattle, Angus. It just goes to show how aggressive comparative ads can instantly trigger serious legal pushback and alter packaging choices.
And, during tightened economic times, companies so often revert right back to these aggressive burger war tactics. They are fighting tooth and nail for a shrinking pool of consumer dollars. We saw exactly this during the recessionary period of the late 2000s and early 2010s, when Wendy's actually revived their iconic "Where's the Beef" slogan from the 1980s. Because when budgets tighten, consumers are desperately seeking value, and that intense battle forces brands right back into the trenches.
That brings us to Section 4, cross-cultural branding failures.
Just look at this German advertisement by McDonald's. It utilized the completely fabricated word, Los Ojos. They completely failed to recognize that chili con carne is Texan, not Mexican, and ole is actually an expression from Spain.
This 2013 campaign was tested in Germany for the resident Mexican population, and it became an absolute masterclass in how not to localize. They basically mashed up totally unrelated cultural elements into a fabricated term, showing a staggering lack of research into the demographic they were trying to engage.
And then we have this one. Released in Mexico just a single day after the traditional Candlemas holiday, this attempt to push the Tex-Mex McBurrito was seen as a direct insult to a deeply cherished cultural dish. For a little context, Candlemas is heavily celebrated by eating traditional tamales. So literally telling a local population that their deeply rooted cultural food is a thing of the past just to sell a fast food wrap? Yeah, that triggered some immense backlash.
Or how about this one from 2019? This Halloween promotion in Portugal triggered immediate, widespread outrage across British-Irish territories. A local marketing team evidently just saw a chance for a spooky pun on an ice cream sundae and entirely missed the massive historical weight of the phrase.
So as business students, we really have to ask ourselves, how on earth did multi-billion-dollar marketing departments allow these catastrophic cultural misunderstandings to go live? Well, the answer usually lies in siloed regional marketing teams moving way too fast and failing to run their campaigns through a diverse global lens. In today's interconnected world, a localized ad in Portugal or Mexico is going to be seen globally within minutes.
In that Portugal example, the corporation completely overlooked that their ice cream pun shared a name with the 1972 Bloody Sunday Massacre in Northern Ireland, a terrible tragedy that claimed 14 lives during the conflict known as the Troubles. This massive oversight forced swift public outrage, which then forced McDonald's into full corporate crisis management. They had to immediately withdraw all the promotional assets and issue formal apologies for the distress caused. It's just a stark reminder that brands absolutely must reevaluate their cross-cultural brand sensitivity outside their home borders.
All right, Section 5, Strategic Global Partnership Proposals.
Okay, let's dive into this specific timeline, because it brilliantly illustrates how Burger King successfully weaponized a peaceful partnership proposal to generate massive PR even after getting a flat-out rejection. So in 2015, Burger King proposes a joint Peace Day burger with an open letter. McDonald's rejects the open letter, basically saying no and drawing a lot of criticism for missing a fun opportunity. But Burger King didn't just stop there. They pivoted and partnered up with Denny's, Wayback Crystal, and Giraffes for the Peace Day burger. It was honestly a genius move that shifted the narrative from purely aggressive competition to strategic industry unity, leaving their biggest rival looking totally uncooperative.
And this moment highlighted how corporate marketing stunts can inadvertently intersect with sweeping socioeconomic and political movements. President Barack Obama actually cited the McCugir proposal as a breaking point and a potential springboard for the fight for $15 fast food worker minimum wage movement. He suggested that if these massive corporations could team up for a burger, they could certainly team up to raise wages for their workers. It just shows the incredible, sometimes completely unpredictable reach of modern marketing campaigns in uniting diverse voices.
And finally, we arrive at Section 6, Modern Celebrity Lifestyle Branding.
So, the really crucial point here is that fast food is no longer about arguing over the size of a burger patty, right? It's all about seamless integration into modern pop culture. We've seen the I'm lovin' it era completely evolve. Instead of that targeted demographic segmentation from the 1970s or those vicious comparative ads from the 80s, they are replacing all of that with massive celebrity meal collaborations. We're talking global icons like Travis Scott, BTS, J Balvin, Mariah Carey, and Cardi B. Brands are leveraging these superstars to curate meals, bringing massive built-in fan bases right to the drive-thru window.
By looking at the market dominance maintained by the top player here, notice McDonald's holding a staggering 38% of the top 10 U.S. QSR market share back in 2010, we can really see why adapting is so essential for survival. To maintain that level of dominance, a corporation literally cannot rely on old tricks. They have to continually evolve their messaging, moving away from rational arguments about price and size and pivoting toward emotional, lifestyle-driven connections with today's hyper-connected consumer. So, in our hyper-connected, socially conscious world, will corporations ever risk returning to the offensive combat of the burger wars? Or are we permanently living in the era of the safe, collaborative celebrity meal? As you review all these case studies for your own business strategies, I want you to consider what happens when a brand stops selling food and starts selling a cultural identity. We've seen the financial ruin of the burger wars, the massive apologies required for those cross-cultural failures, and the undeniable success of global lifestyle-focused branding efforts. I'll leave you with this provocative thought. If economic times get tough again, will we see the claws come back out? Or has the fast food industry finally realized that unity and pop culture alignment are the only true recipes for long-term survival? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the strategy behind the ads you see every single day.